What's up, everybody? I was making some sounds over the weekend and figured I would share some. So, by the end of this video, we're gonna have a sound that sounds like this. So that's kind of a bass sound. The notes are from Propagation by Truise. So it's kind of a Truise sounding bass. It's not exact, but it's pretty close to what I can hear in some of the songs. So let's make it. So I'm going to use Repro 5. You can use any synth that you want. I pretty much now only use Repro 5 and Repro 1. So sorry, I'm going to make this in Repro 1 because it's a bass and it's monophonic. So I'll open it up, and right now, if this is just the default patch, it sounds like this, which we can't have that. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is turn off the square waves, turn off the saw waves, turn on the square waves. So now it should sound like this, which is alright, but I'm never really a fan. First of all, even if I was just making this for my own bass, I'm never really a fan of that hollow square sound. But yeah, it doesn't have that kind of movement or anything like that. So what we need to do is we need to modulate the pulse width. So there's many different ways of doing this. Pretty much every synth that I know of, you can do this, but we're going to modulate the pulse width using the LFO. So I'm going to turn the LFO to up to about 57, and these don't have to be exact. This is just what I came up with. And now we want to change the amount. So I'll turn this one up to about 20, this one up to about 8. So now we're modulating them so the pulse width is modulating at different rates. So we should get some sort of movement. So now it's going to sound like this. So now we get that kind of almost like detuned, kind of wobbly sound. I am going to turn this down by an octave. I'm going to leave the mixer where it's at. This is something that, like, in the mix, you're going to want to adjust if there's too much low end or it's too muddy. But just for this kind of making the sound, I'm going to leave them where they're at. So now we got to start working with the filter. So I'm going to bring the cutoff way, way down to about 4.5, 4. Resonance up a good amount to about 33. Again, does not have to be exact, just general ballpark. The envelope amount, I want it to open up a little bit, but I don't want it to come all the way through. So we'll get to about 55. And keyboard amount, somewhere I found it was opening too much when I had it at its default where this dot is. So I think I left it at like 33. Yeah, 35. Excuse me. So now we have something that sounds like this, which, like, better, but not what we want. So now we gotta mess around with the filter envelope. So the sustain is gonna get turned way down to about 30. So we do want the filter opening, but we also want, as it kind of goes open and closes, we want it to kind of taper off at a level that we can still hear the bass. We don't want it to go away completely. So we don't want to turn the sustain down all the way. But if we open it more, then this filter's gonna open up too much. But decay can go to about 67. Leave the attack on default 10 and leave the release. Don't touch the amp envelope. It's pretty good where it is right now. And now it should sound like this. So that's actually pretty good, but there are some things that we can do outside the synth to mess around. So in Repro 5, they actually have a kind of box called Velvet, and it's essentially like satin in a box. So you get some tape saturation within the synth itself. Repro 1 does not have that, so I often will use Decapitator. And on basses, I usually like to use this end setting, but it sounds a little too kind of buzzy and fuzzy on this bass sound. So I'm just going to leave it on A, and just want to give it a little bit because it's subtle. We're starting the chain off here. All we want to do is heat it up just a little bit, because there's going to be a lot more stuff processing that happens down the down the chain. But if we hear it with and without, so again, very subtle. I find that the best process is subtle effects that build off one another as opposed to kind of smashing all from the get-go. And then the other thing you can do to add a little bit of top end and a little bit of bite is add some bit crushing. So I use Decimort, and there's a kind of setting preset within Decimort that gives you some nice kind of crunch. If you find that like too much, mess with the dry wet, but I like it all the way up. So that's pretty much it. You're gonna obviously have to adjust as you kind of fit the sound in the mix. But as far as that kind of like detuned, wobbly, moogie sound that you hear a lot in some Truise songs, that's pretty much what I got. So hope you learned something, and I'm sure I'll be back with some more videos.